We're having a really good conversation with Ambassador Andrew Young. When we left off, you were talking about what you say and what's said to you when you are trying to defend yourself in a nonviolent way.
Let me remember, I just remembered who started this movement.
That's from these pictures that we're looking at from St. Augustine.
But he was a student at Howard University and held the first sit-in, Hank Thomas.
Hank Thomas.
But he's probably the citizen that had the most complete success in the movement. And let me tell you why. He started the sit-ins. He joined the Freedom Rides from Howard University. He didn't want to go into the Army to kill anybody, so he volunteered as a medic.
Wow.
So he had racism, war, and then he came back and he started with a little Dairy Queen and ended up with half a dozen McDonald's and
became a very successful
and Marriott hotels
noted.
Up and down the Florida coast.
So we thank
so
Thomas for his role
you
as
had
well.
some extraordinary people in this movement who didn't know they were extraordinary. We were kids, and
as we look at that, because you're a kid here, this is
well,
1964.
1964. I was 32.
32. Okay. It's hard to see that, but it's, you say it was part of the calling.
Well, I got sent there by Martin Luther King to stop the movement, and I couldn't stop it because people refused to stop. He then came and went to jail, but the success was that the Saturday after they couldn't disturb us and stop us from demonstrating, the Klan decided it was going to march on the black community. And so they decided to come down through Lincolnville. And I didn't know what people were going to do. And what they did was they started singing a good old gospel song. I love everybody. I love everybody in my heart. You can't make me doubt him, because I know too much about him. I got the love of Jesus in my heart.
And as a preacher, you know the words well, and that was part of the mission.
Well, but it was not a song I was comfortable with. But this was one of the folk songs that was very popular in the civil rights movement, because it sang about loving your enemies. Now,
and that can be quite a challenge.
It is,
when the enemy is so brutal.
Well, I don't know. It seems as though the rougher it gets, the better you get. I mean, it doesn't. You can't be as evil or mean or hate-filled.
So it fortifies your faith and compassion.
You decide you're going to love the hell out of them.
I want to talk about, I like that, love the hell. I want to talk about some of these other pictures and images we see here, because we know that after your time in the movement, President Jimmy Carter tapped you to become an ambassador to the United Nations, and really took your work from a local standpoint of human servants and service to humanity to a global platform. What was that like, working in that capacity? Because we see here you ended up doing incredible negotiations in African countries. You did so much more, starting from a movement. Well,
it was really President Carter's idea, because I was comfortable staying in Congress. In fact, Mrs. King asked me not to leave the Congress, and she said Adlai Stevenson couldn't stay at the UN but 2 years with the Kennedys. How long do you think you'll be able to stay? I said, I'll stay longer than Adlai Stevenson. But it put me on a world stage, but it was something that President Carter really believed in. I mean, we think of him as everything, a peanut farmer mostly, but he comes out of a Christian missionary background. So he knew Christian missionaries in Africa. He knew Christian missionaries in China. One friend of his who starved herself because she gave her food to the children she was caring for and died in China. And he had a religious approach to the world, which I fit in right well, because I had known a lot of these people in college,
Right.
who then had gone back to their countries.
Okay.
And Howard University always has, I mean, I'd get angry because the African students were always the smartest. And you wonder how they got that way. See? But there were very good school systems, and particularly in Nigeria.
Right, and that's where those
and
connections
South
were
Africa,
nurtured.
yeah.
Let me talk about this connection, though, as we see this picture of you and President Jimmy Carter. I know he tapped you after your time in Congress from 73 to 77, but that relationship has lasted over the decades.
Well, you know, I saw him about a few weeks ago.
How is he doing, if I may
Well,
ask?
he was doing well. He was happy. I was with his son. I went down there to meet with the Park Service, and they were able to get me to drop by and say hello.
Nice.
And then since then, his son has taken, he and his mother, riding around planes
yeah.
in their two wheelchairs
Yeah.
that are hooked together.
I know they must miss him at Maranatha Baptist Church on that Sunday school service that he's taught for so many years,
Yeah.
but just knowing it, for you as a friend, knowing that his final chapter is being spent on his terms, that's got to be a good feeling for you.
Well, I don't know. It is, but I don't think everybody wants to rush it. I mean, I'm 91. And I don't
true.
feel no ways tired. We've come too far from where we started from, and nobody had ever told us the way would be easy. But I don't believe he brought us this far to leave us. And I think that even pushing 99, you can't count Jimmy Carter out, because he'll pray for you even when he can't see you. And so you don't feel like he's sick. You don't feel like he's tired.
That's good to know.
He's got all the smiles and energy. Now, it might not be that way always, but he had to slop the hogs and feed the chickens and milk the cows, and then walk 3 miles to school as a kid.
Yeah, that's the story of so many.
It's a rough country life which produces
a strong,
wise men.
wise men like yourself. Stand by. We're going to continue this conversation and continue to get these amazing. I told you it was just going to be one amazing story after another. We'll be right back.